January 6th wasn't just a moment in history. For thousands of Americans, it was the moment their voices were taken.
It's insurrection.
They were persecuted, hunted,
seditious conspiracy.
but behind prison walls, something unexpected happened. They found their voice again.
Started singing the national anthem.
We took it up to him at Mar-a-Lago. He goes, I'll put my voice on it.
Our supporters made this go platinum.
Real America's Voice is telling the real story of January 6th like you've never seen it before.
Everybody, this must be peaceful.
This is not the story you were shown.
I take responsibility.
This is the story they live.
Government entrapment scheme that this actually was.
The J6 Patriots are no longer staying silent. They are speaking, they are standing, and they are telling the truth.
You can't kill us. You can't beat us.
Scan the QR code or visit RealAmericasVoice.com. Real America's Voice presents The Sleeping Giant. Available now. This is America's Voice Live.
And welcome to America's Voice Live. I'm Steve Gruber.
The pulse of the people.
We need somebody that's going to hear the people's voice.
The truth the mainstream won't touch.
This guy is by definition a globalist.
And the stories that matter.
Rav's own Ben Berquam.
Right up over this hill. We got an cartel. I see him.
Live.
Breaking news right now here on Real America's Voice.
Unfiltered.
These people are domestic terrorists.
And unapologetic.
We're here to take a stand for God and country. Let's feel good, doesn't it?
America's Voice Live starts now.
Welcome to America's Voice Live. I'm Steve Gruber. Today is Tuesday, the 10th of February in the year of our Lord 2026. Let's get to today's top stories. As always, thank you for joining me here in Real America's Voice. Truly appreciate you being here. Authorities have released new surveillance video in the search for Nancy Guthrie, offering the public its first look at a potential subject tied to the case 10 days on. How are we just seeing this? I'll show you the footage in detail coming up also. Real America's Voice was on the road with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, taking a look inside America's arsenal of freedom, where submarines and warships are built to keep this nation strong. I'll bring on David Zier for the latest on that, and then later, I'll bring on Congressman Mark Harris of North Carolina to discuss the ongoing funding standoff on Capitol Hill, as well as the crucial SAVE Act that's set to hit the House floor sometime this week. All that and much more coming your way, but first, I want to start with Capitol Hill. A major House hearing took place today as lawmakers focused their attention on immigration enforcement. House Homeland Security Chair Congressman Andrew Garbarino announced in January that senior leaders from ICE, Customs and Border Protection, and U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services are testifying before Congress. The hearing reportedly zeroed in on accountability and transparency, pressing agencies to prove they're fully enforcing immigration law and ensuring the mission to secure the border is carried out without obstruction or political interference. Joining me to discuss this, Congressman Gabe Evans of Colorado's 8th Congressional District. Congressman, thank you for being here.
Good to be on with you.
Well, the full frontal assault on federal agents has been clear on the streets of Minnesota for weeks now. We've also seen it in places like California and New York and elsewhere. I think it's a turnoff to the average American. The average American voter is, I don't know, repulsed by this in general. And yet these people on the fringe continue to get the headlines and seem to get an advantage from time to time. Where are we in this discussion today?
Well, look no further than some of the recent reporting that talked about supposedly only 14% of folks in ICE custody having violent criminal backgrounds, which is true. But what they don't tell you is what falls under the nonviolent criminal category, which is things like selling drugs, theft, fraud, making child porn, human trafficking. So when you actually count those other crimes, ICE is doing what they said they're supposed to be doing, which is going after the criminals, the worst of the worst, the people that are in our communities committing crimes. It's about 60% of those people are in ICE detention right now. And as the folks mentioned today in the hearing, if ICE is going out to arrest a non-violent human trafficker and they contact somebody else who's illegally present in the country, has a final order of deportation, they don't turn a blind eye. They also take that person into custody as well. And so that accounts for the vast majority of the other folks that are in ICE custody right now, either criminals or people that have signed final orders of removal from our country. You don't get that in the headlines.
Yeah, that's exactly true. You know, one other thing you didn't mention there in the nonviolent crime category that has always bothered me and millions of others is drunk driving. How many times do we have to hear about drunk drivers having a crash that from out of this country and then being released back into the community? Look, if you have one DUI in your life, one, Canada says you're not welcome here. And in America, you get caught drunk driving. Apparently, they're okay with it. A number of years ago, I called Mothers Against Drunk Driving. This should be an easy question, right? Are you opposed to illegals being in the country with drunk driving convictions? They had no opinion. That's how politicized this world has become. Mothers Against Drunk Driving couldn't say, hey, they need to leave. It's a pretty simple standard, isn't it?
Well, it's a standard I can speak directly to. I was a police officer in the Denver metro area for over 10 years, and I figured out that if I was willing to do the 6 weeks of math classes to do forensic accident reconstruction, I could go and investigate homicide-level cases. And so that's what I did for years of my career. I was a vehicular homicide forensic accident reconstruction expert, and as you just said, we lose countless Americans. Well, it's not countless. We know the numbers. It's tens of thousands of Americans every year are killed on our roadways, and a significant percentage of that is as a result of drunk driving. In fact, if you go look at the roadway fatalities versus all other homicides in the country, typically more Americans die on our roadways than are killed in other homicides. So it's incredibly important that we're keeping our roadways safe, that we're protecting the motoring public, we're protecting the public that's riding bicycles or walking on the sidewalks from the danger that impaired driving brings. And so if somebody is illegally present in the country and driving impaired, again, the mainstream media will tell you this is a nonviolent crime, but it's a nonviolent crime that, again, contributes to more Americans dying on our roadways than are killed really in all other homicides combined.
Right, and why would you allow somebody to stay in the country convicted of drunk driving? It makes no sense. Drunk drivers have a tendency to reoffend. Here's the problem, though, Congressman. I don't think anybody keeps track of those statistics. Of the number of people killed in this country from drunk drivers, over 10,000 a year, how many of them were here illegally? It'd be a number I'd like to know. We'll never get it, though, will we?
Well, we won't get it because sanctuary jurisdictions like Colorado prohibit law enforcement from even being able to ask that question. As a police officer, I know that when somebody is arrested, one of the first things that you do is you have to take fingerprints. One of the questions that's on the FBI fingerprint card and has been there for decades is, what's the citizenship of the person that you arrested? It has nothing to do with immigration enforcement. It has to do with things like consular notification. We have treaties with other countries that say if we arrest one of their citizens in the United States, we're supposed to let that other country know. However, sanctuary jurisdictions like the state of Colorado, like the city and county of Denver, have prohibited their law enforcement officers from even being able to fill out a basic FBI fingerprint card because they don't want to collect that information about what crimes are being committed by people who are illegally present in the country. So when we have sanctuary jurisdictions that are refusing to collect this basic information, of course we can't get the statistics, and it's worse than that. One of the questions that I asked in the hearing today was, in sanctuary jurisdictions where state and local law enforcement are prohibited from sharing information with their federal counterparts and releasing criminals back into the community rather than turning them over to ICE if they're in the country illegally, what does that do to ICE's presence in the community? Does that mean that more ICE officers have to be out trying to go find these bad guys that sanctuary jurisdictions are releasing? And of course, the answer, as we all know, is yes. If there are sanctuary jurisdictions that are releasing criminals back into the community, they are actually inviting more ICE officers to come into that community to go get the bad guys that sanctuary jurisdictions refuse to hold.
They're also putting the crime rate higher than it should be. They're artificially inflating the crime rate. And despite their best efforts, Donald Trump and his administration have deported thousands, millions actually now. And the crime rates in America, as you know, Congressman, are lower than they've been in a very long time, which brings me to this. Why would anyone, I mean, I thought this was the strangest political position to take, defund the police. It's been around for 15 years now, more strongly in the last 6 or 8. Defund the police. This is the most ridiculous political position ever taken by a political party in my lifetime. And here we are talking about DHS being defunded. That's FEMA. That's the Coast Guard. Really? We're going to defund the Coast Guard because we're having a temper tantrum. That's the way it seems to me. Your thoughts?
Oh, you're absolutely correct. It's a temper tantrum, and it's even worse than what you just described. And we're seeing this again in places like Denver, Colorado, which is a pedestrian crosswalk away from my district. As you mentioned, we are seeing the crime rates go down, and that's what happens when federal law enforcement is able to secure the border and go after the bad guys that are present in our communities. In my district last year, we had a major takedown where the Drug Enforcement Agency, working with ICE and many other state and local folks that were walled off from parts of this investigation because of the immigration nexus. But federal law enforcement went out and they were able to arrest double-digit numbers of Tren de Aragua gangbangers. That's the Venezuelan prison gang. They arrested all of these folks and got them out of our community, led by federal law enforcement, which again was finally able to go get the bad guys. And so that did drive a crime decrease. But what we're seeing in places like Denver is drug overdose death rates are actually up. In Colorado, overdose death rates from fentanyl are up by double-digit percentages, even as other crimes are dropping. Why? Well, as a cop, it makes perfect sense to me. If I'm a criminal, if I'm a cartel member, I'm a drug dealer, and my core business is selling drugs, if there's a soft on crime laws at the federal, state, and local level, I'm going to branch out into all sorts of side gigs like stealing cars and human trafficking, things of that nature. When the heat comes on from the federal level, then I'm going to contract. I'm not going to be on all of those side gigs. I'm just going to focus on my core business of selling drugs, because again, if the state and local law enforcement are being held to ridiculous sanctuary policies and can't turn these drug dealers over to the feds, then places like Colorado and like Denver are still permissive for bad guys to operate. They're just trying to dodge the feds only, because only the feds are the ones that can hold them accountable. That's what we're seeing in Colorado and other sanctuary jurisdictions. Crime is down, except for some of these certain and key areas like drug overdoses, which are actually up in Denver, Colorado, I argue, as a result of the sanctuary.
Yeah, one more thing I'd like to talk about, considering strange positions to take, especially when you have polling from Pew Research and CNN and others. The SAVE Act, voter ID, picture ID, wildly popular in this country. 83% overall, 95% of Republicans, 71% of Democrats. It seems the only people that oppose voter ID in this country are the Democrats you share Washington, D.C. with currently. It is a strange position to take when you have 71% of your own party saying we want voter ID, picture ID, and we want you to prove that you're a citizen of this country before you cast a vote. Not the day you vote, but when you register, prove you're a citizen. On the day you vote, bring an ID to prove you're that person and you're voting legally. What a simple concept.
Oh, it's a simple concept that even the Democrats can wrap their minds around, but only at places like the Democrat National Convention, where you need to have an ID to be able to get into that venue. But it's critically important that we're able to prove the citizenship of people that are casting votes in our elections. Look no further than what happened in Colorado, where our corrupt Secretary of State accidentally mailed out 30,000 register to vote postcards to people who weren't eligible to vote. So when we have situations like that happening, of course Americans want to know that only citizens are casting votes and are being registered to vote. And so, as you said, the SAVE Act polls overwhelmingly favorable among folks who just want people to show that they're a citizen when they register to vote and when they cast a ballot to vote. And right now, of course, Democrats are opposing that.
Yeah, of course they are. Congressman, really appreciate your time here today. A lot of important topics. We'll see how long the Democrats cling to, taking the money away from the Coast Guard and others. Not a very smart place to be, but I can't advise them. Sir, thank you. Thank you very much. FEMA too, yeah. Greatly appreciate it. All right, we'll leave it there. Great conversation so far. Coming up after the break, I'll discuss the ongoing investigation into the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. Authorities have released brand new surveillance video capturing Guthrie's home at the time of her disappearance, 10 days later. Does any of this smell right to you? Details coming up.
Exactly what they're doing. They want to steal the election. You We're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue, and we're going to the Capitol. They need to take back our country.
Events in Washington have taken a violent and tumultuous turn.
January 6th wasn't just a moment in history. For thousands of Americans, it was the moment their voices were taken.
It's insurrection.
They were persecuted, hunted,
seditious conspiracy.
But behind prison walls, something unexpected happened. They found their voice again.
Started singing the national anthem.
We took it up to him at Mar-a-Lago. He goes, I'll put my voice on it.
Our supporters made this go platinum.
Real America's Voice is telling the real story of January 6th like you've never seen it before.
Everybody, this must be peaceful.
This is not the story you were shown.
I take responsibility.
This is the story they live.
Government entrapment scheme that this actually was.
The J6 Patriots are no longer staying silent. They are speaking, they are standing, and they are telling the truth.
You can't kill us. You can't beat us.
Scan the QR code or visit RealAmericasVoice.com. Real America's Voice presents The Sleeping Giant. Available now. This is a monumental moment in American culture. This Sunday, Real America's Voice and Real America's Music come together to do what the mainstream industry won't. Take the music back. Starting at 7 p.m. Eastern, we go live with exclusive free coverage of the Turning Point USA All-American Halftime Show, a patriotic alternative. For years, the left has weaponized the music industry, using it to push politics, erase values, and divide the
I have to ask, who else feels the way I do about the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie? Something about this is just off. I feel terrible for her family. I feel terrible for an 84-year-old woman who's been taken against her will. But something from the beginning about this has just felt off to me. And today, authorities released brand new surveillance video in the search for Nancy, offering the public its first look at a potential subject tied to the case. You can see some of the video here. Boxing-tight gloves. A gun, it appears, then holding plants up to the Ring doorbell. Investigators say the footage was captured at Guthrie's home around the time of her disappearance and could be critical in identifying who took her. Law enforcement now urging anyone who recognizes the individual to come forward, stressing that public assistance may be key to bringing answers to the Guthrie family 10 days on. Joining me to discuss is a former FBI special agent and author of A Cop's Son, One G-Man's Fight Against Jihad, Global Fraud, and the Cartels, Kenneth Strange. Sir, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me on, Steve, and our prayers go out to the Guthrie family.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a gut-wrenching story. No matter how you might feel about her or anybody else, I mean, the president came out again today and said, we are offering all assistance. Caroline Leavitt came to the podium. We might mention that in a minute. But here's my question, Ken, and it's 10 days later. They told us there was no video footage. They told us there was no picture. And 10 days later, suddenly we've got this clear footage of him walking up from some distance with what looked like strange boxing gloves, what appears to be a firearm being held in a very strange position, apparently messing with the camera. 10 days later, Ken, again, nothing about this seems normal to me, not in a kidnapping case. What does your gut tell you?
Well, you know, my gut tells me that the law enforcement authorities were keeping this close to the vest. And sometimes they do that. They don't want to disseminate information right away until they have everything, all their ducks in order. So that is not so unusual. But, you know, what's been unusual is the ransom notes combined with this, the possibility of kidnappers and burglars. So the ransom notes have really kind of distracted people from what has actually happened.
Yeah, you know, when I look at the footage, though, to me, being 10 days later, we were told from the moment we learned this story that she has medical conditions that require her to have medication daily. Otherwise, it becomes potentially life-threatening. Now, we don't know her disposition at this point, but if you were a kidnapper and you wanted $6 million in Bitcoin, which you've been led to believe is the demand, you would take the medication with you. You want to make sure that the subject you're willing to trade for $6 million is alive and in good shape. There's something else that makes me go, why is that? Your thoughts?
No, that's absolutely right, Steve. That's a good observation. If you wanted to protect the commodity, and that's what this person would be, you definitely would want to the medication because you're looking for a payoff, and you're with the golden goose. So you're going to do everything you can to protect that person. You probably talk to them very nicely and say, before I take you out to be kidnapped, do you have any medicine do you need medicine? So yes, that's very strange.
Well, and here's the last piece of the puzzle. I'll let you weigh in on this as well. It does not appear to me from the footage, because we've seen plenty of footage outside of her home, Nancy Guthrie's home. It doesn't look like the door was damaged. It looks like somebody knew how to get in. To me, it looks like somebody that was familiar with her to some extent. They came to the door, knew the camera was there, had some idea, disabled the camera, but didn't have to kick in the door. This just, to me, makes me feel like it's somebody she's at least acquainted with. Maybe I'm on the right track, maybe I'm not. What does your law enforcement background tell you?
Well, my investigative instincts tell me that, yes, you're on the right track, that this is somebody who either was there or has that intimate knowledge of the house, or someone that has collected information from people that have been there. So no, this person knew what they were doing, and it looked like they felt fairly comfortable with what they were doing. And they came dressed to do the job, I'll tell you that much. Very, very tactical clothing, and they were there to either kidnap or worse.
Okay, one more thing. One more thing. They look like boxing gloves. If you're going to break into a home, wouldn't you bring fingered gloves? I mean, I'm not a criminal. I've never broken into a house, but it seems to me you'd wear fingered gloves, not these things that look like cheap boxing gloves from the local gym. It's just another oddity, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a great observation, Steve. But maybe these gloves, maybe the person is nimble enough or experienced enough with these gloves, has done this type of thing where they might actually work for this person.
Yeah. A lot of things here that make you go, I hope that your prayers are answered. I hope that Nancy Guthrie is okay. Look, it's somebody's mom. There's no other way to slice that. Somebody's mom. That family putting out, I think, 3 videos now, obviously emotionally drained, physically drained, exhausted, because this is just horrible to go through, I can imagine. Terrible thing. All right, before I let you go, though, tell us about this book, A Cop's Son, One G-Man's Fight Against Jihad, Global Fraud, and the Cartels.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. This is a homage to my father, who was a NYPD cop for almost 40 years. And so the book pays homage to him. And we have investigations in my book that are terrorism, fraud, and the cartels, which is one other thing I wanted to mention. This whole thing could be a cartel kidnap as well. We're only 70 miles away from the border, and so it wouldn't surprise me that they would do something like this.
Possible she's not even in the country. That's been something that occurred to me as well. Greatly appreciate you being here. Thank you for the insights. We'll keep following the story and see where it takes us, because right now, nobody seems to know. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Steve.
Really appreciate it. All right. Before we go to break, I want to remind you that Real America's Music has a new release out now titled The Boss by Natasha Owens, a patriotic response to Bruce Springsteen's attack on ICE officers and immigration enforcement. Here's a sneak peek.
From powerhouse vocalist Natasha Owens, known for standout singles like Trump One and Somali Waltz, comes her brand new release, The Boss, released on Real America's Music. This is the direct response to Bruce Springsteen's recent release, The Streets of Minneapolis. While Springsteen once branded himself as a voice of the working class, The Boss gives a voice to everyday Americans and reminds listeners who truly shapes the future. The Real America's Voice audience has the power to move charts and shake the industry. Download it right now. Scan the QR code or search The Boss on iTunes. Push it up the charts. Make them notice. From powerhouse vocalist Natasha Owens, known for standout singles like Trump One and Somali Waltz, comes her brand new release, The Boss, released on Real America's Music. This is the direct response to Bruce Springsteen's recent release, The Streets of Minneapolis. While Springsteen once branded himself as a voice of the working class, The Boss gives a voice to everyday Americans and reminds listeners who truly shapes the future. The Real America's Voice audience has the power to move charts and shake the industry. Download it right now. Scan the QR code or search The Boss on iTunes. Push it up the charts. Make them notice. At Real America's Voice, we know that you want to be a part of something bigger. That's why we've teamed up with AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, to build a real community of folks who care about faith and our country's future.
There is no force on earth that can stop us from saving our country.
Want to be a part of this movement? It's easy. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now. That's right. Grab your phone and scan the QR code to join the AMAC and Real America's Voice family today. By scanning the QR code, you'll unlock exclusive content, connect with like-minded Americans, and be first in line for events that celebrate our shared values. So don't wait. Scan the QR code. Join us today and become part of a community that stands for faith, family, and freedom.
Real rights, they come from God.
With AMAC and Real America's Voice. Go ahead. Scan the QR code now.
Hi, this is Chris from Wisconsin, and I love Real America's Voice because you have great news and a great chat family. God bless all of you.
It's Mama Love in northern Minnesota. You know, a collective voice is much louder than a single voice. Thanks, Rav, for giving us a place to chat and connect. See y'all in chat.
America's Voice has been traveling with the Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth on his Arsenal of Freedom tour as of late. The tour visited General Dynamics Electric Boat Division in Rhode Island, where U.S. submarines are built, and Bath Iron Works in Maine, where America's Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyers are manufactured. Joining me now, Real America's Voice correspondent, the host of Breaking Point, David Zier, who was along for a good part of that journey. David, welcome to the program. Quite an experience for you, I would guess.
It was incredible, Steve. Good afternoon. The time with Pete Hegseth, he's laser focused on this Arsenal of Freedom tour, thanking the workers in these giant facilities, making our submarines, 2,500 workers on their feet. It was unbelievable for him and for Trump. And then going to the Bath Iron Works, where we build our guided missile destroyers. We had an incredible day flying around, but when we got back, Pete Hegseth stopped for a gaggle with us, and check it out.
Secretary Hegseth, how are you, sir? Good. How's it going? Dave Zier, Real America's Voice. In the last few weeks, I was with the head of the 18th Airborne, the commander of U.S. Space Command. There seems to be so much energy and enthusiasm out there. How did it make you feel today in the Electric Boat Division, the General Dynamics, and the Bath Iron Works with that incredible crowd coming out for you?
Spirit. The president calls it spirit, and that's what it is. You can feel it throughout the country. You feel it in our military. You see it in the recruiting numbers. You see it in the retention numbers. It's not just who's coming in. It's the guys that are in, that are staying in at historic rates and at high rates. Then you see it in the workforce, and that's why I'm glad you guys can come along and see this Arsenal of Freedom tour, and why our remarks are all public. It's because we're saying the same things out in the public that we are behind closed doors. We're all in this together. We got to move fast. We got to get the capabilities to the warfighters. And when when everybody sees that spirit, everybody works a little harder, moves a little faster. So, yeah, we draw off that energy from the crowd.
A little bit of a sea change, right?
Well, I would say it's more than a sea change. I mean, you look at the sleepy, slow nature of the Biden administration. They couldn't get people to join. They lowered the standards and lowered the goal numbers in order to get the number of recruits and still couldn't meet it. We've raised the standards and raised the goals, and we're exceeding them historically. And at these companies, they say, hey, our workforce is more motivated than we've ever seen it before. That's our goal. We can't, like I said to the crowd, we can't resource our guys and gals unless these companies are delivering, whether it's small or large, from Anduril to the big ones, these capabilities that we need so urgently.
Boy, we've seen the capabilities, haven't we, David? We saw the capabilities in Venezuela. We know that we've got two fleets basically parked on either side of the Persian Gulf right now, telling Iran, please don't make a mistake. Look, Donald Trump is not a guy who wants to go to war. But if he does go to war or have a conflict, he goes in with overwhelming force. And that's a big part of what we're seeing, isn't it?
It is, Steve, and this is part of, being ready for anything that comes away. But Pete Hegseth went further in that gaggle when we were outside on Andrews Air Force Base tarmac about that these systems that go through the Pentagon go through a lot of red tape, and he's cutting that red tape in the Pentagon as best he can. And he acknowledged that the culture is, we can't keep adding specs for 10 years at a time, like the Bradley fighting vehicle went through. So he's about cutting the red tape, going right to the defense contractors, but also holding the defense contractors responsible and accountable, and not afraid to go somewhere else for the services if they don't perform at speed and scale to deliver these systems to our warfighters. He was very clear about it. Trump's got his back 100% on that.
Yeah, you know what I hear when you say that, David? Because let's always be honest about this. Congress talked about bringing the bacon back to their district, right? Bringing the bacon back. Yeah. This buddy system, this old boy system, has gone on your entire life and mine. Well, look, if you're not building a ship up to snuff, or an airplane, or even the small repair parts, wrenches and hammers and whatever it might be, if you're not doing it, but you're buddies with the congressman, that's got to stop. We need the best equipment at the best price, delivered to the best fighting crew in the world, the American military. I agree with your point on that. Last word to you.
Yeah, and Hegseth agreed with that. And when he addressed the workers, he said there is a culture of the lobbyist and these systems that continue to get delayed. And these ships, we used to create ships every 42 days. We don't do that any now, like in World War II. Now it takes years and years and years. But the sophistication of this and the technologies and the new Trump ships with direct energy weapons and other types of things, railguns, this stuff is a new era. And you have to get the stuff delivered quickly to face emerging threats. There's a lot of threats. Maybe one day we can cover it more, but there's a lot of emerging threats in space and in the water and on the ground around the globe, and we got to be ready.
Absolutely true. David Zier on the road with the Secretary of War, not the Secretary of Defense. Thank you, David.
Thanks, Steve.
All right, we're only a few weeks into winter. Already brutal cold, huge snowstorms, of course, power outages, and that little rat, Puxatawney Phil, said expect 6 more weeks of that stuff. Think about it. If the power goes out when it's really cold, do you have a way to keep yourself and your family warm? It is a real problem. Winter power outages can even be life-threatening, like in Texas in 2021. That's why so many Americans are getting a Vesta off-grid heater from My Patriot Supply. It's a space heater that doesn't use electricity or propane. It runs on something called canned heat, which is an indoor-safe fuel. With a Vesta stashed in your closet, you can now keep warm no matter what happens. Even it doubles as your stove to cook food, which is, that's pretty cool. The best part is right now you can get the Vesta and a bunch more preparedness gear as free gifts when you order the Winter Survival Kit from My Patriot Supply. Just go to mypatriotsupply.com/RAV to see everything that's included. This offer won't last long, so go to mypatriotsupply.com/RAV right now. mypatriotsupply.com/RAV. Coming up after the break, anti-Semitic attacks seem to be on the rise in New York City. I know you're not surprised. Jewish residents say City Hall is failing them. A new report shows hate crimes skyrocketing, with growing anger directed at the communist mayor Zohran Mamdani. Details straight ahead.
From powerhouse vocalist Natasha Owens, known for standout singles like Trump One and Somali Waltz, comes her brand new release, The Boss, released on Real America's Music. This is the direct response to Bruce Springsteen's recent release, The Streets of Minneapolis. While Springsteen once branded himself as a voice of the working class, The Boss gives a voice to everyday Americans and reminds listeners who truly shapes the future. The Real America's Voice audience has the power to move charts and shake the industry. Download it right now. Scan the QR code or search The Boss on iTunes. Push it up the charts. Make them notice. At Real America's Voice, we know that you want to be a part of something bigger. That's why we've teamed up with AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, to build a real community of folks who care about faith and our country's future.
There is no force on earth that can stop us from saving our country.
Want to be a part of this movement? It's easy. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now. That's right. Grab your phone and scan the QR code to join the AMAC and Real America's Voice family today. By scanning the QR code, you'll unlock exclusive content, connect with like-minded Americans, and be first in line for events that celebrate our shared values. So don't wait. Scan the QR code. Join us today and become part of a community that stands for faith, family, and freedom.
Real rights, they come from God.
With AMAC and Real America's Voice. Go ahead. Scan the QR code now.
Hi, this is Chris from Wisconsin, and I love Real America's Voice because they have great news and a great chat family. God bless all of you.
It's Mama Love in northern Minnesota. You know, a collective voice is much louder than a single voice. Thanks, Rev, for giving us a place to chat and connect. See y'all in chat.
Honestly, when I read these stories, they come as no surprise to me, probably not to you either. In New York City, Jewish residents say they are facing a growing wave of anti-Semitism. A new report shows attacks targeting Jews surged in January, now accounting for more than half of all hate crimes that are reported across the city. Many in the Jewish community are placing their blame with Mayor Zoran Memdani, arguing his leadership has failed to confront the problem head on. But what did you expect? Some residents say the lack of strong action has left them feeling unsafe and ignored. Community leaders are now calling on City Hall to restore law and order and take anti-Semitic violence seriously before conditions get even worse and somebody gets killed. Join me to discuss this, the president of Summit Ministries, Dr. Jeff Myers. Jeff, nice to see you. You know, there's an old saying, you get what you vote for. The problem is, I think there's a lot of people in New York City that just shrug their shoulders and say, and go on with their day and don't consider it. But the Jewish people certainly aren't shrugging their shoulders. They've got a serious threat on their hands, don't they?
Steve, this has been a growing threat for a long time for Jewish people in New York City. The Anti-Defamation League has tracked anti-Jewish hate crimes for many, many years. They saw a spike from about 2,000 a year nationally to 9,000 a year nationally in 2023, 24, 25. But the only thing that's changed in New York that resulted in this most recent spike is that Zoran Memdani has become the mayor. Now, listen, this is one of my academic areas of study, and it's something I teach young adults about at Summit Ministries. If you're a leader, you're responsible for your rhetoric. When you begin to use rhetoric that indicates to other people that it's now okay to attack a certain group of people, like we're not going to have a definition of anti-Semitism anymore. Memdani removed that. It's called permission giving. There's actually a term for this in the academic world, and your viewers will love this: stochastic terrorism. Stochastic terrorism. This is technically a form of terrorism because you're giving permission with plausible deniability for people to do bad things and you turn your back.
Yeah, and to be clear about this, it's not like he's going out and say, hey, it's tacit permission. When you just go, and go the other way, you're granting them the license to do bad things. That's what you're saying.
That's essentially it. And there are a lot of examples of this. I remember in Colorado when weed became legalized, it wasn't so much that more people wanted to smoke marijuana. It's just that it sort of put up a sign that said, we're open to anything. Well, one of Mondami's very first actions when he became mayor is to reverse the definition of anti-Semitism that the city of New York was working with. It was one you can find online. It was designed by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. So by withdrawing that definition, he's essentially saying to people, hey, we're no longer going to look at anti-Semitism as a really serious thing. And as soon as you do that, then there are a whole lot of people out there who hate Jewish people. And, this is the one socially acceptable prejudice in all 194 nations of the world. So it's not like this is unique, but he's essentially saying it's okay now. I'm not going to tell you that it's okay, but I'm going to turn my back on all of this.
Yeah. So what do you think happens, Jeff? I don't see it getting any better. I don't see the mayor's policies getting any better. I mean, I saw all these videos after the big blizzard they had here recently with the piles of garbage on top of piles of snow. One thing that'll tick off New Yorkers faster than anything are piles of garbage along the streets. I know that over a lifetime of watching what happens there. But is there anything he's doing thus far that's improving the day-to-day lives? I mean, it's been a short period of time. Not much to measure yet, but anything he's doing to encourage morale or make people feel better about being in New York, I'll give you the last word.
Well, the honeymoon is over. It lasted maybe 2 weeks. So for Mondami, I think the situation is that he's got to now come through for New Yorkers, not just as a socialist, not just as a communist, not just as someone who's Muslim who is anti-Israel. He's got to come through in a very practical way for New Yorkers. But he needs to take responsibility for his rhetoric. That is the key thing that all leaders must do. And unfortunately, he's going to learn the hard way that people actually get hurt. When words lose their meaning, a professor friend of mine used to say, people lose their lives.
Yeah, no question about it. Dr. Jeff Myers, always an education, sir. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Steve.
Really appreciate it. All right, February, National Cancer Prevention Awareness Month, if you didn't know. Now more than ever, we need to be asking what each of us can do to lower our chances of cancer. If you or a loved one is battling cancer, we need to make sure that no stone is left unturned in the effort to stay healthy. That's where the Wellness Company comes in. You know the Wellness Company. Great doctors like Peter McCullough and Kelly Victory are here on a regular basis. The Wellness Company and its doctors are medical professionals that you can trust. The Wellness Company is committed to providing safe, low-cost alternatives to Big Pharma. From ivermectin to methylene blue to their fantastic new product, Shield, and so much more. The Wellness Company gives you the opportunity to make the promise of the Maha movement a reality for you and your family. This February, let's take control of our health, shall we? Go to twc.health/voice. Do that today and order. That's twc.health/voice. Use the promo code VOICE to save 10% right now. Prepare now. Be prepared. Be ready. Don't wait. You never know what's happening next. We're here to help. All right, coming up after the break, I'll bring on Congressman Mark Harris of North Carolina to discuss the ongoing funding standoff as well as the crucial SAVE Act. It's set to hit the House floor this week. Details coming up.
From powerhouse vocalist Natasha Owens, known for standout singles like Trump One and Somali Waltz, comes her brand new release, The Boss, released on Real America's Music. This is the direct response to Bruce Springsteen's recent release, The Streets of Minneapolis. While Springsteen once branded himself as a voice of the working class, The Boss gives a voice to everyday Americans and reminds listeners who truly shapes the future. The Real America's Voice audience has the power to move charts and shake the industry. Download it right now. Scan the QR code or search The Boss on iTunes. Push it up the charts. Make them notice. At Real America's Voice, we know that you want to be a part of something bigger. That's why we've teamed up with AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens. to build a real community of folks who care about faith and our country's future.
There is no force on earth that can stop us from saving our country.
Want to be a part of this movement? It's easy. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now. That's right. Grab your phone and scan the QR code to join the AMAC and Real America's Voice family today. By scanning the QR code, you'll unlock exclusive content, connect with like-minded Americans, and be first in line for events that celebrate our shared values. So don't wait. Scan the QR code. Join us today and become part of a community that stands for faith, family, and freedom.
Real rights, they come from God.
With AMAC and Real America's Voice. Go ahead. Scan the QR code now.
Hi, this is Chris from Wisconsin, and I love Real America's Voice because we have great news and a great chat family. God bless all of you.
It's Mama Love in northern Minnesota. You know, a collective voice is much louder than a single voice. Thanks, Rev, for giving us a place to chat and connect. See y'all in chat.
From powerhouse vocalist Natasha Owens, known for standout singles like Trump One and Somali Waltz, comes her brand new release, The Boss, released on Real America's Music. This is the direct response to Bruce Springsteen's recent release, The Streets of Minneapolis. While Springsteen once branded himself as a voice of the working class, The Boss gives a voice to everyday Americans and reminds listeners who truly shapes the future. The Real America's Voice audience has the power to move charts and shake the industry. Download it right now. Scan the QR code or search The Boss on iTunes. Push it up the charts. Make them notice.
Now, we want to stay on this topic of defunding the police. It goes back several years. Has never made sense to me. It always seemed like a fringe idea. And now we have this ongoing DHS funding standoff in Congress that would defund FEMA and the Coast Guard, among other things. Remarkable, reckless, I would say. Democrats continue their efforts to stop President Trump's efforts to deliver on what he promised the American people. And they've proven multiple times they're willing to do anything to hold the government hostage. And with the deadline come to a deal this Friday, some are concerned we will see yet another Democrat-controlled shutdown. Join me to discuss and address these concerns, my friend Congressman Mark Harris of North Carolina's 8th Congressional District. Congressman, nice to see you again.
Hello, Steve. It's great to be with you. How are you?
I'm well, but it is remarkable to be jaw-dropping to me. They'll stop at nothing. And I do believe that defund the police was one of the more ridiculous, maybe the most ridiculous thing I'd ever heard from a political party when it rolled out. Then it kind of faded back. Now it's back. Defund ICE. Defund the Department of Homeland Security, which when they say that is the Coast Guard. That is FEMA. There are so many things that go on in that agency. They're like, yeah, we don't care. ICE, by the way, for the record, is funded through 2029. They're not even impacting the thing that they say they care about. Your thoughts?
Well, you're exactly right, Steve. And this is just another case that is the same page out of the same playbook that Chuck Schumer seems to operate from. And that is that when you can't do anything else, you don't have any issues, you don't have any leadership, you reach into that playbook and you just find something that you can somehow try to shut down. And in this case, he's trying to go after the Department of Homeland Security. And it's just a travesty. I mean, to your point, the people that we are going to see held hostage, the American people operating without a Homeland Security, if you think about it, TSA that's going to be affected, FEMA that you mentioned being affected, the Coast Guard being affected. All of these are serious, serious issues, all under the guise of saying we want to somehow defund ICE. Well, you made the point. ICE is already funded through the One Big Beautiful Bill. And so it's a travesty. The American people, I believe, are too smart to buy into it. And I hope that the American people remember this as we progress through this year into the midterms, that Chuck Schumer has nothing to do except try to create shutdowns.
You know, I'm old enough to remember, you're probably not as young as you are, but I'm old enough to remember that Bill Clinton said, you know, we can't have all of this illegal immigration. Barack Obama put somewhere between 3 and 5 million people out of this country, deported them, right? Because it was a problem for national security. It was a problem for employment. It was a problem for people that were at the lower end of the income ladders because they get pushed out of a job and somebody come do it for less would get the job. And now, if you say we need to deport people, we need to do the right thing, we need to arrest criminals, now you're a racist, now you're a fascist, now you're a Nazi. I mean, I'm sorry. Have they lost their minds?
They have lost their minds because, again, the law is the law. If you don't like the laws, you elect people and you change the laws. But the reality is immigration laws exist, and people that have come across the border illegally, and particularly when we've got these criminal illegal aliens with incredible criminal records that we are having to try to find and deport. And it really, when you start talking about sanctuary cities, that is something that every American needs to be aware of the tragedy that is being developed by them. When we see all the things that are happening in Minneapolis, you see the results of a sanctuary city. And all across this country, we're seeing the problem where they refuse to cooperate. If we're going to really have law enforcement in this country, we need to see cooperation between the federal and the state and the local authorities. What you see in Minneapolis is what happens when the state and local refuse to cooperate, and then you have trouble, then you have chaos. And that's what our Democrat friends seem to thrive on.
Yeah. Last question here today, last topic, the SAVE Act. There seems to be only one group of people in this entire country that are opposed to having voter ID and the requirement that you're a citizen, prove it. Not when you vote, but when you register to prove you're a citizen and then have voter ID, picture ID. The only people opposed to this are the people on Capitol Hill that are Democrats, because across the country, it's wildly popular. 83% overall, 95% of Republicans, 71% of Democrats believe you should have an ID to vote. But apparently Democrats would have you believe if you're a person of color, man, it's just too tough for you to get an ID. I mean, do you know any adult, black, white, I don't care where you're from, religion, short, tall, big, small, doesn't matter, that doesn't have a driver's license? Anybody that's an adult?
I don't. And in fact, that's part of the problem we've got, because so many of these states are registering people to vote through their DMVs, and that's creating a problem. And I think that that's what the Democrats are concerned about. They want to hold on to power. They want to try to do the things that they're operating with. And the SAVE Act is as clear and as simple and as common sense as it gets. A person needs proof of citizenship when they register, and they need to be able to show that voter ID when they go to vote. It is that simple. It's going to, I believe, bring us back to where we need to be as a country, where we move towards safe and secure elections, and that's going to be critical. And I can't think of anybody that would be against that unless you've got some kind of reason that absolutely is not based in truth.
Absolutely true. The only reason you would oppose voter ID or to prove that you're a citizen is if you had something else in mind. And I'll just let people think. I don't have to make the accusation, but you have something else in mind. Congressman, always nice seeing you, sir.
Great to be with you, Steve.
All right. After the break, we'll have a story that reminds us of how wonderful America is, plus answers to the America's Voice question of the day. Are you watching the Winter Olympics this year? Have you in the past? Your thoughts when we come back.
From powerhouse vocalist Natasha Owens, known for standout singles like Trump One and Somali Waltz, comes her brand new release, The Boss, released on Real America's Music. This is the direct response to Bruce Springsteen's recent release, The Streets of Minneapolis. While Springsteen once branded himself as a voice of the working class, The Boss gives a voice to everyday Americans and reminds listeners who truly shapes the future. The Real America's Voice audience has the power to move charts and shake the industry. Download it right now. Scan the QR code or search The Boss on iTunes. Push it up the charts. Make them notice. Real America's Voice, we know that you want to be a part of something bigger. That's why we've teamed up with AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, to build a real community of folks who care about faith and our country's future.
There is no force on earth that can stop us from saving our country.
Want to be a part of this movement? It's easy. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now. That's right. Grab your phone and scan the QR code to join the AMAC and Real America's Voice family today. By scanning the QR code, you'll unlock exclusive content, connect with like-minded Americans, and be first in line for events that celebrate our shared values. So don't wait. Scan the QR code. Join us today and become part of a community that stands for faith, family, and freedom.
Real rights, they come from God.
With AMAC and Real America's Voice. Go ahead. Scan the QR code now.
Hi, this is Chris from Wisconsin, and I love Real America's Voice because they have great news and a great chat family. God bless all of you.
It's Mama Love in northern Minnesota. You know, a collective voice is much louder than a single voice. Thanks, Rav, for giving us a place to chat and connect. See y'all in chat.
All right, we ask you every day to join us for What Makes America Wonderful. We do it to put a smile on your face. I hope it works most days. Today's story comes to us from the sunny state of Florida, where a Good Samaritan's actions ensured that 2 miracles happened, not 1 but 2. Logan Hayes, driving to work near I-95 when he spotted a car slowly but surely sinking into a pond, and discovered this. He promptly pulled over, jumped into the pond where he swam 30 feet toward that car, and when he reached the vehicle, Logan was able to pull out Shelby Apollon, who had been caught in this stress-inducing situation. You think it was stressful? You think? While the story can end there, it keeps going as the paramedics later arrived and revealed that Shelby was 34 weeks pregnant and shortly after arriving at the hospital was able to give birth, making for a story that features a series of fortunate events. Jumping into action is the theme of today's story, and Logan Hayes' courage to heed the call ensured that 2 lives, not just 1, were saved that day, which today reminds us of what makes America wonderful. Maybe a couple of prayers that day made America just a little bit more wonderful. Think about that. All right, question of the day. Are you watching the Winter Olympics this year? Have you in the past? Here are your answers. Deborah Fowler, nope. Not interested since I've seen the photo of the Lord's Supper with whatever and all the athletes that supposedly compete for U.S. and condemn the United States. Haven't watched in years. Brian Sharkey, nope, I used to. The Olympics also became too political for me. Seems liberals have ruined the NBA, the NFL, and so on and so forth. Diane Hollingsworth, I have in the past, not this year. Roger D. Pierce, not until Hockey USA versus Canada. Isn't that today? Is it today or tomorrow? Anyhow, you guys will have an answer. You got 40 seconds. Anti-America activists on teams ruined it. Good truth to that. Greg Van Gelder, no and no. I'm watching Rav. Greg, that is the best answer yet. We'll have arm wrestling championships here between me and anybody I can find before it's all said and done. All right, that's it for today. It's the hockey game today. Did anyone find out for me? I asked one thing. I needed one answer. It's all good. I'll have the answer for you tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. on the Steve Gruber Show, kicking off live coverage here on Real America's Voice, as I do every Monday through Friday. Catch up on everything that's going on, including the latest twist in this Nancy Guthrie case. We'll have that. We'll see you at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning on the back for America's Voice Live tomorrow afternoon. Until then.
From powerhouse vocalist Natasha Owens, known for standout singles like Trump One and Somali Waltz, comes her brand new release, The Boss, released on Real America's Music. This is the direct response to Bruce Springsteen's recent release, The Streets of Minneapolis. While Springsteen once branded himself as a voice of the working class, The Boss gives a voice to everyday Americans and reminds listeners who truly shapes the future. The Real America's Voice audience has the power to move charts and shake the industry. Download it right now. Scan the QR code or search The Boss on iTunes. Push it up the charts. Make them notice.
Thank God you're not. I thank God you're not.
At Real America's Voice, we know that you want to be a part of something bigger. That's why we've teamed up with AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, to build a real community of folks who care about faith and our country's future.
There is no force on earth that can stop us from saving our country.
Want to be a part of this movement? It's easy. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now. That's right. Grab your phone and scan the QR code. They tried to shut them up.
There's no guarantee to free speech.
They tried to cancel them.
Deplatforming works.
They even threw them in jail.
Peter Navarro,
Steve Bannon,
now in prison.
But they couldn't stop them.
It's not a prison bill that will ever shut me up.
They call them rebels.
Basket of deplorables.
They call them rogues.
They claim to guns or religion.
And they say they're outlaws.
These are the kind of guys you like to smack in the ass.
War Room presents Rebels, Rogues, and Outlaws.
You set out to take Vienna. Take Vienna!
The national bestseller by longtime Bannon producer Dan Fluette. Take a journey through the pictorial history of War Room in a culture that celebrates the weak. Show your support by standing with the rebels. Go to doitfluette.com or scan the QR code on your screen.